I think the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today.
Americans are finally getting what they voted for. No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation. No longer.
President Trump and his Justice Department celebrating the massive win handed down by the Supreme Court today, which frees President Trump's agenda from the restraints of nationwide injunctions imposed by federal judges. And with that, so begins a fun-filled Friday afternoon. Going to be jam-packed as well. I'm John Roberts in Washington, and hello to the lady from Boston again today.
That's right. I'm Molly Lyon. I get to be in New York City today. Sandra is off. This is America Reports. Great to be with you, John. The president said that his team will promptly file to push forward the 40 previous orders held back. But the fate of Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship remains unclear.
All right, let's start off this afternoon by bringing in John Yoo, a former Deputy Assistant Attorney General and former law clerk to Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. So first of all, let's start with nationwide injunctions by these district judges. Where are we on that after this ruling?
They're dead, 100% dead. The Supreme Court has said now definitively district judges, of which there are about 700 around the country in every major city, they can decide the cases before them. They can give remedies like injunctions to the parties in the courtroom. But what they can't do is impose it against the government throughout the entire country at once. Really, that's the Supreme Court's job. And so what the court has said is, yes, it's going to be possible now for the birthright citizenship order to be struck down in Boston, but still upheld in Texas, that it might still be possible for people to get passports in Boston who might not get them in Texas. But that's the job of the Supreme Court to resolve that conflict. It's not the job of any individual district trial judge to do. So this is a really big win for the presidency, not just Donald Trump, but the presidency, because what the court has also respected here is that the president is elected by the American people to carry out an agenda, and it's important and right for him to be able to pursue that throughout the country at once.
Amy Coney Barrett wrote the majority opinion, and I thought that this clause from it was really interesting. She wrote, quote, "We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself. We observe only this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary." Smack.
Oh, boy, I'm glad I'm not there right now. I'm sure they're going to be great friends afterwards, especially when they need each other for the 5th vote on one of their cases. But, you know, Justice Jackson's dissent, I have to say, I thought was a little over the top. She's basically saying this is the collapse of the rule of law. You're going to have, you know, irresponsible presidents defying the rule of law, doing what they want, and the courts, no one's going to stop them. I don't think that's quite right. This is, in the long run, as a legal issue, not that important. It's important as a political issue for the effect it has on the government, its ability to pursue law. But this is actually the judiciary restraining itself, saying we're only going to apply our powers to the cases before us. We're not here as the judiciary to run the whole government. And so who benefits from that? Presidents do. But presidents are democratically accountable and electable. The American people who are watching this show, listening to you, John, they should not think that the rule of law is collapsing all around them. It's not happening. Basically, things are going to function normally. This is just really a narrow legal issue about the power of individual trial judges. The Supreme Court's always there, and they're going to decide these questions in the end. And I think that's better than an individual trial judge.
I should point out, nobody's listening to me on this. They're listening to you.
No.
Let me come back to birthright citizenship. Here's what President Trump said about it a short time ago. Listen here.
Thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation.
So as you pointed out a moment ago, this could create a patchwork across the country, that it's birthright citizenship is allowed in Massachusetts, not allowed in the state of Florida, and then ultimately it would go back to the Supreme Court to resolve this on a nationwide basis.
That's right, John. That's why the people should be listening to you, because you got it 100% right. You get an A+.
It's only because they follow you.
I wish. Now, that is exactly right, John. This birthright citizenship order that President Trump has issued will be the law in the parts of the country where the courts haven't enjoined it yet under this decision. But the Supreme Court, and in a weird way, this expands the power of the Supreme Court against the lower court judges, because now it means that the Supreme Court has to intervene faster, decide these questions quickly, and not just sit around in the courts below. I tend to think personally that President Trump's going to lose on the birthright citizenship order. He's actually said in previous public statements he's not sure whether it's going to survive. But what it means, at least, is that the policy of the country will be set by an elected president, and then it will be reviewed by the U.S. Supreme Court, the 9 justices, not 600 child judges.
I want to ask you quickly just about this other case that the Supreme Court decided on. That's the Montgomery County, Maryland school board. The Supreme Court said that it has to allow parents to opt out their children from lessons involving LGBTQ issues.
Yeah. One way to think of this has been an incredible run of several years now, 3 or 4 years, maybe longer, where the rights of parents to protect their children have been upheld by the Supreme Court. And more, in a bigger perspective, the rights of religious minorities to freely exercise their religion free from government interference. So this is another example of this winning streak that religious minorities have, winning streak that parents have. There was another decision saying today that Texas could require age verification before people can access pornographic sites. Again, another victory for families and parents.
Novel concept, parental rights, isn't it? John, great to see you. Thanks for kicking us off today.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate it.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.